Okay, we're recording, and welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Well, it's been a month now. Welcome back to Table Talk 23, which is a name I came up with.
Yes, it's a very good name because it has the number 23,
which is both of our favorite numbers. So.
Just by happenstance, it's kind of weird.
I don't know why. Like, I don't understand.
For you?
I don't know why I like 23.
Really? Oh, you never?
Why do you like 23?
Because it was the pivotal age when I started to live life. No, it was just a very pivotal moment or year in my life.
See, that's so meaningful. 23 was a shit year for me.
Oh.
It was awful. I was hoping for it to be like the best year ever because it was my very favorite number. It turned out to be one of the worst years of my life.
Wow. So you just...
But I mean,
maybe...
that's still like my favorite number. I don't know. I don't know. I also like the word, anything with a number 3 in it. I'm kind of a 3 fan.
Okay. So you're just like...
But 23 is my favorite number. It's just a good number.
It's Michael Jordan's number.
Oh, that's right. We established this last time that you watch sports.
I have delved into sports a lot when I was younger, and then not so much after 20. But yes, a little bit.
Okay.
Anyways, obviously you don't know that.
No.
23, and then LeBron James is 23. Anyway, it's a good number.
Yeah, it's a good number.
And the Jim Carrey movie. The number 23.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, wow. I watched it, but it's been a while.
I think we were supposed to watch it together once when you still had that studio.
Oh.
We were going to, like, project it or something on that wall.
I kind of remember that.
Whatever.
But I think even at that time we were like, oh my god, you guys 23. We should let's talk about that. So here we are, podcast Table Talk 23.
At least something came out of that. Yeah. So we haven't gotten to see each other for like a month. And the last time we spoke, I had a job, which I don't anymore.
Oh.
We didn't talk about it on the podcast, so I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but you took off to...
LA.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned it after the podcast. And then I turned 30, so we have like a lot of things to catch up on, even in like the short amount of time.
There's other things too.
Yeah, we could talk about those too.
So. Yeah, definitely.
So let's start with you, because nobody got to hear about this. Is after the show you broke it to me, as if you were moving away, and I was a bit heartbroken for a second, that you were going to LA. And I was like, that's a huge step as an actor.
Yeah.
But it turns out you weren't permanently moving there. You were taking workshop, which I honestly think is still a really huge step considering that's a commitment. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is this workshop in LA? And how are you managing to get there every week?
Yeah, the pre-story is that I've always wanted to take classes in LA. I always really wanted to take that. And then I've been taking improv classes with an acting coach here in Sacramento. And I've probably took about 3 or 4 within the last year and a half of improv classes. And so I looked into the Groundlings one day, and that was like a year ago. And I didn't have, I guess... the money and the motivation to really get serious about taking the class. So anyway, fast forward probably about, 2 months ago-ish, I was talking about taking a Groundlings class in LA with my friend Caroline, and she was like, had this authentic motivation, like, yeah, let's do it, let's audition. Or she had a little motivation. I was like, wait, hold on. Are you serious about this? So anyway, fast forward from that, we auditioned together. She drove down, we drove down, or she drove, I was with her. And we auditioned for Groundlings. And then that day we were supposed to be told, let me say that again. We were supposed to be told like 3 days later if we got in the class or not. But the teacher was like, I'm just going to let you all know you got in class. So we all got into class. And... so that at that point, you have to pay for the class, but you have to schedule what days you want to go. And so, basically, I just signed up and started classes last week.
How long is the course workshop?
It's a class, I guess. It's I think it's 12 classes for 6 weeks. So I go in Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 1.
So you have to be in LA between Monday and Wednesday?
Correct. Yeah, so I was there last Monday and Wednesday. It was really awesome because, as you know, I went to that drama school, and I got to reminisce and walk around and like relive all these memories I had. And I got to talk with one of my friends, one of the guys I roommated there with, and he's still there, still in the game, 15 years later. And I was like just talking to him, and we're just reminiscing about all our stories. But I was just so impressed by his, just that raw, motivation to continue on, because it's very hard. He was telling me that he's getting a commercial here and there, and then he said he's living with a relative that moved to LA, and then he's like, then I got a national commercial, and I moved out, I got my own place, and he's like, then that money ran out because everything kind of went dry, and then then he moves back in with his relative, and it's just like this up and down, ebb and flow process of being an actor there. So anyway, I met up with him, and it was really awesome. I stayed at a hostel for 2 nights, and I'm going to do all that again starting tomorrow.
That's insane. See, it always impresses me, like, how far people will take their passions, because I have friends, and I have a friend right now, he's trying to be a voice actor and trying to hit it big in LA, and I think he's been there for at least a year now, but for the first, I don't even know if he still is, he probably is, but he was living out of his car for like 6 months. I think he has a job now, though.
Wow. So,
like, I don't know, the dedication, and I remember he was telling me, like, he got to go to, I think he was invited to the Emmys or the Oscars or something, but he was a seat filler, and I didn't even know those existed. So apparently, at the Emmys, everybody you see smiling is not necessarily like actors or crew members, they're just people who sit there to fill seats, which was like, surprising in itself, but apparently the rule is you can go there for free, but you can't eat, you can't drink anything like water, you can't talk to anybody, so it's like not even really a networking opportunity. You're just kind of, and I asked him what the point was, and he said basically the point is in hopes that the camera will kind of pan on you. And I was like, really? What? But like, how does that work? Like, do you get noticed? Like, that guy in the back, he's clapping really well.
Right.
Like, but it's just like, to me, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything, but it's like, it's the dedication that, like, how people go so far for their passions, and it's actually, to me, very noble. I think it's very noble.
Yeah. It's interesting. Time and time again, I continually talk about this, where there's the industry where I love, and I've said this before, I walk out of a awesome movie, I'm moved, and I come out of that movie, I'm like, this is what I'm here for. And then there's parts of it where I'm like, I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. So obviously your friend has said, I'm going to do whatever I can to do that, and everybody has their different ways of doing that, and that's, I mean, and then there's all kinds of ways you can do that, but like everybody has their limitations, and everybody's like, okay, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. But as far as like the awards and things like that, I watched the Golden Globes. I don't know if you probably didn't watch it. No.
I'm not cable.
They had the hosts of it were playing around. They were doing like a little skit with Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey was in this certain section of seats where supposedly only I think like movie stars, or no, like TV people are supposed to sit, So they were joking with him, like, Jim, you're supposed to sit in the movie section, or vice versa, I can't remember, but it's like, you're supposed to sit on the other one? He's like, oh, really? Oh, yeah? Well, yeah, you know, kind of making a joke out of it, but I do think, and I've heard that that's a serious thing, actually. You can't sit, if you're a movie star, you can't sit in the TV section. You know, it's like a caste system. Like, you go here. If you have this label, go here. If you have this label, go here.
It's like breaking everybody off into categories.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Definitely.
you're in fiction.
Right.
You're nonfiction.
Yeah. It's so there's a system to it, and but as far as your point of, you know, doing what you believe in, and thinking, I have to do this, I have to do A, B, C, D, and E to get through that. Yeah, you know, you got to do what you have to do.
You got to do what you got to do. That's what I used to tell my friends all the time, or remind my friend all the time. Yeah, he's like, why do you do this? I'm like, you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, I heard there's a movie called Con Air. I don't know if you heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
It's a John Malkovich, where basically a bunch of prisoners hijack an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
And they go out and escape and stuff. Anyway, he's like, I did that purely for money. Because I highly respect John Malkovich. He's one of the reasons why I began acting. I was just enthralled by his characters. And the movie itself is not great, but his character in it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everything he does is great. But he was like, I do this purely for money, nothing else. But, you know, if you're going through the journey of trying to make rent, I mean, that's what you have to do, you know?
Yeah, I think, obviously, I think it's better doing what you love, making money off of it, rather than just, you know, doing a 9-to-5. So maybe, you know, even his, I do it purely for money.
Right.
Hopefully there's, a little bit of passion there.
Yeah. So carrying that point to your job, so you had a job.
I had a job.
And now you don't have a job.
Yeah.
So you were doing it, seemed like you were doing it because you had to do it. Or not had to, but I mean...
I learned...
Because you wanted to learn certain things.
I did, and I learned a lot of things from that experience. I mean, I was only there for a short period of time, but I think... I don't know, it's kind of cheesy to say, but I feel like it's that importance of time. You know, so, what I did, I don't know if I explained it the last time we talked, but I basically sat on the phone all day and, pretty much inflated people's ego on Instagram. So I'd comment on their stuff and, be like, hey.
I thought you meant on the phone, you called them.
No.
So, Susie, that picture was fantastic. Oh, my gosh.
That
the dress,
hair.
that hair.
My.
The Instagram photo was angled properly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Kudos to your boyfriend.
It's like being paid to provide therapy. Something.
No, but I was like, damn, I sit here for 8 hours doing this for the company that I wouldn't do for myself when I need to do it for myself. And it was just like I realized, I don't know, there's something in me awakened. It's just how much effort I'll put into other people and neglect myself and what I need to do with my life. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience to be like, I need to start taking care of myself more. And yeah, I don't know. I was going in hoping that I learn a little bit more about social media marketing and stuff, but I didn't learn as much as I wanted. But I walked out with a life lesson, so that's a good thing.
That's good. That's an excellent point.
So yeah.
So to your point of that, having to do what you have to do, there's another change since we last met, and I talked about it, but I actually made the decision. I emailed my agent saying I quit.
You quit?
I quit.
Did you ever listen to the Kyle Cease thing that I sent you?
No.
I'm about to chuck you out this window, son.
This is where the podcast takes a turn here. I don't know.
Bloodshed and carnage in this studio.
What did it say? Stay with your agent despite whatever you are called in for.
No.
Okay.
No. It was actually the opposite. It's what you did.
Oh, okay.
But
That'd be cool if it was the opposite.
But I'm still really not happy with you right now. No, but okay.
Well, it's to the point, though. It's to the point of, because, sort of to the point. Because you're saying you have to do what you have to do. Okay. But for my interpretation of that is that there's certain things that you want to do, but we touched on it last time, is that, once I start doing things and it starts draining me, then that's when I start, okay, I have to be, first, the number one is I have to be self-aware. Am I happy? Yes. Is this fulfilling me in any way? Mm-hmm. If not, step two is like, okay, what are you going to do about it? And honestly, like I said before, it was just an adrenaline rush for the last year, almost 2 years. When I get an audition, I'm excited. Then I go to the audition. If I get a callback, I'm excited. I get a booking, wow. And then I post on Instagram, wow. I'm excited for all these things. And then I get paid, oh, great. But there's nothing inside that is like, wow, this makes me fulfilled.
Right.
And I know that's kind of harsh. And that's, in a way, it's like, I'm being self-conscious right now. Because I know I can hear people might say, oh, so why did you do this? Or why are you an actor? Or why did you have an agent in the first place? Well, for me and my personality, I have to try things out. I have to say, okay, I'm going to put all of myself in it. And then once I do that, then I can see how I respond to it. And basically, once I started going more and more of these auditions, and then, regardless of the rejection, I was like basically 25 auditions, I would get one booking. That's basically my rate. And even rejection, it didn't really faze me. That's not the part. Like, if I was in LA, I'd be going to auditions all the time, and being rejected, that actually fulfills, like, that challenges me. I want to overcome that. But it's more like the content. I was fortunate to have the things I'd have booked, or they were mostly things that I would like use or be a part of or something like that. But basically, whenever I would get on audition, I would say for the last 6 months, I would be like, okay, all right, I gotta schedule a mega bus. All right, I gotta schedule a car ride. And it's just like, there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, thank you so much for all of your support from my agent, but I have decided to focus on things that I said that I focus on classes. I focus on things I really love to do, but basically that's what it is. There's people I can contact for projects. There's classes I'm going to take. So already I'm doing that. So I'm already on that next step, right, as I see it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. Going back to you got to do what you got to do, but there's a caveat, and like you said, like, it has to fulfill you.
Yeah.
It has to make you happy. It has to put that kind of spark, because without that kind of, the thing that drives you forward, you're just kind of at that point just existing in this field. And even like in the field that we think, for me as an entrepreneur, like, it's not owning all businesses or like any business I can get my hands on. It has to be a specific type of business that draws my heart. That's
a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not going to say never, because I've learned never say never, but as of right now, I can't see myself owning a restaurant because I absolutely hate working at the behind the scenes of food industries.
Right.
I was a waitress for some time, and I hated the inner workings of it. And like, as a business owner, like, I can never see myself, as of right now, owning a restaurant. And so, it's, you got to do what you got to do, but it has to spark something in you, even in this.
I said to myself, and I continue to ask myself because I wanted to contemplate about it. I wanted to I'm a thinker already, as you can already know, audience. But, I just kept saying, are you happy? I'm not sure. Are you happy? Are you happy? And just came to the point, I'm like, no. I'm not happy. So I had to do that. But that's a really good point, because someone could say, if someone can ask a business owner like, I don't know, more than I do, like Bill Gates or something, or other people, Gary Vee, or whoever, Steve Jobs. Could you see Steve Jobs, owning a construction company?
Right.
And people would say, well, he's not a businessman if he's not open to have a construction company. We're like, no, he doesn't have any passion for that. He's has this highly technical mind. That's what he wants.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so the same with an actor. It's like, you don't want this. Well, no, dude. And so the point I was getting to is that I asked myself, if I want this, if this is what I want to do, I want to do it on my own terms. And I know they're going to still have to do things, I'm still apply for certain things that I'm not like super passionate about, but this is like angling me toward that.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically that was it.
Yeah.
I had to move toward what makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, most people when they look at things, I think they look at things in like an overarching category, but within that category,
Right.
There's subcategories. Like, for instance, right now I'm working on a business, a clothing brand business. Never thought I would, but I'm combining my culture, so my Okinawan culture, in this brand that I'm developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a passion for it because of like it's got like I'm mixing my culture with it and like all that kind of stuff. But within that, online e-commerce business, there's multiple things you can do. You could start multiple different stores. You could do like selling products, drop shipping items from China, starting your own clothing brand. But like even in that like niche of e-commerce, there's like subcategories. So you got to find what it is that calls you within it.
Yeah.
And same with acting. I know I had a friend who refused to do movies and TV because his heart was in theater.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
He's like, I don't care to be famous in any other field aside from theater.
And the more and more you do something, the more you're like, okay, I like this. You go through A through J, and you're like, okay, I like D and F, and E, but like these other ones I'm not exactly sure about. Maybe later on I'll hire people to do these things, or delegate these duties, but it's just not something that doesn't ring to you. So that's good that you. And so when did you start that?
Well, we were working on it the last time I talked to you.
Oh, okay.
We've since switched. Well, we had a brand, but it was more of a testing brand. We were trying to see like if our designs would sell under this one thing, and we found a niche of our designs that are selling. So we decided to start building a brand around that.
Oh, okay.
So we were just testing the waters and market,
Right.
and then we actually within a week we grossed over 1,000 off of the designs that we had made, and we were like, okay, this is the direction we want to go. So, excuse me. That's where we're at right now. So we're rebranding everything, and we're supposed to launch the brand tomorrow or the day after.
Nice.
So yeah, but it's been kind of fun, but we've been kind of pushed back.
Yeah.
Because my birthdays had come, and like people were in town to see me, and I haven't seen people in a long time. So
I'm trying not to feel bad right now.
Oh, feel bad, please. I'm like, I'm just kidding.
I was in LA during her birthday. And
you left the day before I turned 30.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to come here.
It's okay.
I had a thought of getting people together to say happy birthday on a video, but I never did it.
Well, who would I know in LA?
No, it was just like random strangers.
Oh.
Like, happy birthday to you.
No, it's
I was
okay.
like,
No, it's
darn.
Okay. I had fun, I mean, I'm no longer in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, so that's kind of, like not funny story, but like, people are like, oh, so you're 30 now, like, how do you feel? And I actually feel really great.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I was a teenager, I actually always looked forward to being 30. And the reason why is when I was young, you know how like when you're maybe not you specifically, but it's very common when you're younger and you're like hitting your maybe what is it, fresh senior, and then what's the one below it, sophomore? Junior. So when you're hitting your junior, senior year, teachers and parents will start pressuring you to be like, you need to know what you want to do with your life and like figure it out, what college classes you're going to take, all that kind of bullshit.
Right.
And I remember I was stressing about it because my teachers were like, oh, if you don't get good grades, you're not going to go into good colleges and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, worrying about my future. And my mom sat me down and she said one of the smartest things she's ever told me was, how are you supposed to know what you're supposed to do in your 20s when you're just barely getting out of being a kid? She's like, being a kid, like between the time you're born to the time you're 18, you're just a kid. You're figuring out school, you're figuring out how to be friends, you're just learning the basics of life. And like throwing yourself into all of a sudden, I need to learn how to make money, I need to learn how to like figure out what I need to do with my time, like that's so much pressure to put on somebody.
It is.
So she was like, your 20s are for failures. To try multiple different things to figure out where you fit in this world. Mm-hmm. And then in your 30s, that's when you start adulting.
Yeah. So you just started adulting.
I started
the other day.
I just started like 2 days ago. I started adulting. But no, like I look back at like my 20s and it was like I never put that pressure on myself to be like, what do I need to do? How do I
maybe for like a small minute during high school, right?
Yeah,
like it's
small minute. But like after that conversation I was like, yeah. I'm gonna fuck up. And that's okay. And so, like, I spend a lot of my 20s, because I didn't know. I thought I wanted to be a movie director. I thought I wanted to be an actor. I thought I wanted to do all these type of things. Yeah. I never imagined that I'd end up, being an entrepreneur. But, like, all those little things, those failures, those triumphs, all of that, like, overcame.
But that's the one thing I really respect about you. It's like that you are willing to do that, and you did it. And you've, tried these different things where I think a lot of people, and we touched on this last time, a lot of people are just kind of narrow-mindedness where like, oh, I got to have this type of job or that type of job or these people expecting me to do this type of thing. And like, you're like, no, I'm just going to try a bunch of things. And like those labels are, I'm going to try, filmmaking or whatever. Like you did it and then it filtered into something else and it filtered into something else. And you wouldn't have been able to be in this place right now without that process of going from point A to point B, then back to A, then back to going to C, then doing really well and going to L. Yeah. But then you got to go back to C. Not a lot of people are willing to do that.
And I don't think it's that people don't want to. It's that mentality that as soon as you get into that college age, teachers and parents, all those people that you think have life figured out are telling you, dude, this is your time to figure out your life. Right. When in reality, it's not. Yeah. Like, you have to spend your 20s exploring. Like, and that's why I feel like in my 30s, I feel much more confident in myself. I have a lot more self-esteem. I have a lot more, like, I'm more at peace with who I am and what I'm doing because I had that, like, ability and I didn't force myself to be like, okay, I have to be a certain way.
So true.
And I actually credit all of that to that one talk I had with my mom. I was like, that saved my life, I think.
That's great. I mean, like I said, I think a lot of people are caught up in that zone, and they don't have that growth process, that inner growth process, and I don't think that they grow innerly, do that mid to mid 20s or late 20s, and they kind of caught in other things. And they're like, oh, now I'm 34 and I don't really know about myself,
And that's another thing. Like I have friends who are in their 30, over 30, and they spent a lot of their 20s like working for certain jobs or going to college. I know a lot of people who ended up going to college for like 6 or 7 years because that's what they assumed that they had to do, and they got these like good paying jobs, and they get into their 30s and they're like, I realize this isn't what I want to do with my life. And then so like they're I feel it hurts my heart because they're struggling mentally, you know, like how, but then at this point they're like, you know, they're in their 30s, they're gonna, you know, the next step is 40.
Yeah.
Like at this point people are pressuring them to have kids.
Yeah, they're already on that train. They're already on that track.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it's, you know, it's just a cliche, but the older you get with, you know, a habit of doing something, it's harder to to move off that track.
I mean, I know there's that saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I don't believe that. I think it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, but it can be done.
It can be done. Yeah. It's just the longer you, because it's habit. You know, it's like years and years of smoking habit. It's hard to break once you do it. And so it's the same thing. Everything you do, everything you are at this point in your life has been built off of habits that you have done since forever.
So true.
And like to break that, like most people don't realize, like they think that they are who they are or what they do just based off of just life, but it's all just habit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would add to that, there's, and this is kind of what we're touching on, but like putting it in a more concrete form, is that there's the outer work, like what you do for a living. When people say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a chef, I'm a waitress, I'm an entrepreneur, I work for a financial company. That's the doing, that's the outer work. And then there's the inner work. Mm-hmm. You know, then it's like, who am I? Why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people touch on the inner work, but at some point it kind of comes to a crux. And then it's like, wait a minute, do I really enjoy this? Am I doing this for the accolades? Am I doing this for, purely for financial stability? Because at some point it becomes monotonous, and you're like, okay. I mean, some people thrive in that environment, but some people like want some change or something. Because as an Uber driver, I have a lot of servers. They're like, I make great, or bartenders. You know, it's like, I make great money. They're like, I have a house. You know, I have all I need. I have vacation time, all this stuff. And yet, some of them, not all, but some of them are like, God, I got to get out of this work. He's like, you know, I've been doing this since I was 17. Now I'm, 28, and like, I don't have anything else on my resume. I don't have any other experience. And this is just a small percentage, but like, they're just like, I want to do something else. But it's like, that's the consequence of having financial security and all that kind of stuff. You don't work on the inner work, and because inner work takes a lot more guts,
I was actually listening to an audiobook, because I listen to a lot of Audible, and I was listening to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he passed away a long time ago, but he was one of the self-help starters, you know. And
into him too.
He's awesome. He's amazing. And I remember one of the things that he was talking about security in general is like, people look for security in a lot of like, especially right now, the financial security, right? Or like trying to get into a relationship because you want to feel that love security, trying to get a good paying job because you want that financial security. And it's like, you have to realize that no matter what you do in life, there is no security. Like, I know Gary Vee and a lot of entrepreneurs talk about jobs not having security, but in reality, business owners don't have security either. Yeah. Because, like, the market could tank. Anything could happen. Mm-hmm. But so what Dr. Wayne Dyer was saying was, like, you have to learn to find security within yourself to be comfortable in where you are and who you are as a person.
That. Oh, my gosh.
And not trying to find outer security, because if you're constantly looking for outer security, you're not going to find it, because security is all within yourself.
That's some deep stuff. You better note that right now.
Deep shit. And I remember, because I listen to audiobooks every morning when I take my dog to work, and I remember, or not take my dog to work, walk around the block with my dog.
She's at home, and then she goes to take him for a walk, and then comes back to home, which is work. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So like I walked him, and I remember I heard that part, and I was just like, I had to stop, and I'm like, holy shit! Oh my god, that's so true! And I just remember having this moment of clarity as my dog's taking a dump behind me. I was just like, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
Because there is no security. Nothing you do is secure. People chase this illusion of what security is, and the reality is we have none. But the security is you have to feel it in yourself. And I know you have. I don't remember which book it was, but he talks about it all the time in a lot of different books. So if you ever pick up a Dr. Wayne Dyer book or watch one of his videos on YouTube, you'll probably find it.
Yeah.
But he goes into much more detail than I can about like how to feel better about that or how to go about doing that. But that really opened up my eyes.
It just calls the fact that all of this is what we're talking about. A lot of it touches on social psychology, just the inner psychology of people. And we talk people can talk all day about technical things, about getting jobs and this, and all the, how to get into the right schools and prepare for that and preparation and this outer work stuff. It's like analogous to acting. You can find your mark and you can get the right headshot and or the right photographer and get an Instagram account and you start doing the social media thing. There's all these outer work things, but there's the inner side of why am I an actor? Why am I doing this? Why do I feel so insecure when I have a really bad audition? These are like psychological things which I'm fascinated with.
Yeah.
But to the point of Dr. Wayne Dyer, it's like, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it in the grand. This is always the big picture orientation is, it's about life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Going to just for a second, going to the big picture, like, I'm going to, I'm going to be at this place or this time, I'm going to go to Target tomorrow. Are you? I don't know. Maybe you won't be. You might get in your car and get in a car accident. Like, who knows? You're right. Constantly in this culture, it's like, everything's planned and secure, and we fight for that security. It's like we die to make sure that preparation and that security will remain alive, even though in this kind of talk and this philosophy, it doesn't exist. But we fight for it.
I feel, and that's true, and I feel like for me, as soon as I heard that and realized like all of where security comes from, and when you said like that has to be within yourself and not like outer sources, I know some people are like, oh my god, then what am I going to do if nothing is secure? But you have to realize that just means you have more control over, like, at least what you do. Maybe the rest of society, like what happens outside of you don't have control over. But how you react to situations, that means you have control over. What decisions you make based off of what happens to you, you have control over. So like, I felt so much more at peace just like with that ideal.
Totally.
Yeah, because you're right. People get, like, I think suicide rates are getting high, especially in high schoolers. There was a really eye-opening documentary. I can't remember what the name of it is. I'll have to add it in the show notes, but it was about high schoolers and a mounting pressure they're feeling in taking those tests and stuff. Like getting standardized tests and all that kind of stuff. And kids are like, they're buying drugs off of people just to keep themselves awake in order to study for tests, and then they're killing themselves because they can't handle that amount of pressure. And I'm like, what are you doing to these kids? Like, they're just barely, they're kids, And then I don't know, it's just, and at the same time, all of my generation of people, and there's nothing wrong with it, is everyone's living with their parents nowadays because the economy is so high, you can't pay for anything. And so it's like, why put that kind of pressure?
Yeah. And that's why I think, the pressure of going to college, when I was in high school, was there. Mm-hmm. There was some societal expectations. I didn't have any parental expectations, but in the general sense, I think there was because I went to college prep high school, so there's talk about it. I remember my people I knew were talking about colleges and applying to colleges, and so there was a little bit of pressure. But I think now there's presidential initiatives, there's school initiatives, there's all kinds of things that get your college prep. I mean, it just it is totally, I don't say pervaded, but it is. College is totally being pushed down people's throats, these high school throats. Now, some people I think would thrive that in college, and they know. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if it's a high percentage. I don't know, but I know that there's a lot of people that, like myself, who don't thrive in that routine school environment. People would say, if I said I didn't like high school very much, people would be surprised because I tolerated it. I got decent grades, but I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed education. I didn't enjoy school. Right. And so now that these kids are having so much pressure to go in college, and it's like, okay, I got to rush and I got to, I can go in undeclared, but I have to go to college. And I'm like, I feel as though they should do something that I did at 23, and this is why that's my favorite number, is because I went into the AmeriCorps program. I was able to leave Sacramento, to travel to 4 different states, to meet and befriend 10 other people within 10 months, and really open my eyes of the world, meet people, travel, start some leadership skills, and just expose myself to all these other things. I feel like people that are 18, 19, 20 can all use that instead of just rushing into something that they don't really know what they're doing, like you said, and like even in your 20s, mid 20s or late 20s, it's like, I still don't know exactly what I want to do, so why rush to it?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. So, I have my friend, he was in town. I hadn't seen him in a bit. I met him in Okinawa. I've known him since I was 14. He moved to the States when he was 17. He moved to California, moved to New York for 5 years, and now he's back in LA. But he came up for my birthday.
He's the one that doing the VO?
No, different guy.
Oh, okay.
But he went to college, university in Rochester, and right now he's working for a famous TV chef as a product designer. And he was making actually really good money doing it. And he's using his degree, but he's also like $100,000 in school debt. What is it called? There's like a special loan debt thing for schools that you can't even. I can't remember what the name was. It's not coming to me right now. But it's just like, and now, he's like, he's like, I want to try all these different things, and like, he's not the only one. I know people who are in $200,000 in, school debt, and it's like, they're at that point where they're even like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do with my life. I want to do something else. That's but what I mean. I have to have this job security because I have to start paying my school loans down. But at the same time, I'm barely paying interest. I'm not even touching the loan. I'm just now trying to pay down my interest. And it's like, damn, that sucks. Because you can't file bankruptcy. Like, no. This is a school loan. Like, you're...
That's it. And I'll be honest, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in huge debt. I haven't paid for a while. And that's a whole nother bag of worms that I've never got into.
And that's rough.
That's rough.
That really
but this is actually, I actually wanted to verbalize this for a while. This may sound naive. Maybe I'm going to look back at this audio podcast and like be like, what were you thinking? I don't know. But I have an enormous amount of, you call it resiliency, enormous amount of motivation, passion, whatever. But it's like, I will not allow anything to block my dreams, regardless of loans or people or anything. So, sometimes I focus on, oh my God, I have so many student loans I haven't paid. And, and then I can get into the process of, oh, okay, I got to get a real job, and then it's like, okay, go to that job and do that for 15 years and then just blow my dreams out. I like that reality. I cannot deal with that. And maybe the older me would be like, well, you should have took care of this because now it's going to go up to 80,000. But I don't know. I'm taking a risk. I know that. I'm taking a huge risk. I knew that 5 years ago when I started down this path. I know it. I already know. So if it comes to be where I'm not successful or whatever, and I have all this debt or whatever, so be it. To me, because going back to the main point, or the other point, was about security. And it's like, why invest so much of my time and energy in something that I don't like, to pay off something that I did take out, and I take that responsibility, but I'm willing to take the consequences of at least, or taking the risk of doing something I'm passionate about and giving my full all in that, and then hopefully pay it off in that way. Maybe there'll be a time where I'm like, oh wow, I got a check for $120,000 for this acting gig or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's not impossible.
You know, it's not impossible.
Not at all.
I know that that's very possible.
In fact,
but I got to continue with that dream. It's like, in essence, it's analogous to like, dreaming of winning the lottery. A lot of people have never done that or find that useless. I do that sometimes. I'm like, what would I do with $1 million?
Right.
What would I do with this and that? It's kind of this, lofty, dreamy thinking, but I don't know, it keeps me dreaming. It keeps that little light, that little light within me to a flame. It just, I don't know, it's just something that's like, okay, I want to live that. I want to continue to live. And sometimes you just have to dream instead of just doing it. You have to like just sit there and like visualize that this is going to happen. And that's where I want to continue living my life. I want to continue living that I don't know, just that passionate life. Mm-hmm. I cannot see myself doing something else.
Yeah.
I
admire that. I think there's very little people who understand that.
Yeah.
Mentality. I mean, I know probably more people than not, because that's just who I surround myself
with.
But
I need to do the same.
But like, most of the world doesn't understand that, and it's just something we've been ingrained in for so long. It's just habits, thinking habits we built up. It's harsh. Yeah. But then that's how you get like midlife crises.
Yes. Exactly.
And then now your student loans are overwhelming you. You probably, there's a possibility you could get fired from your job that you thought you were secure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually thinking of a specific friend that I know that this happened to. And then you realize that what you've been doing and like putting your life into for the last 20 years, 30, 40 years is not exactly what you want to do. And then you realize you just wasted maybe, like most of your life, 50% of your life. Not even, I don't even know. Doing something you don't want to do with all this debt. And that's when the crisis hits you. And that's why, I think that's why it's so common for men and women to, kind of go off the deep end and they,
Yeah. And that's what, I think, kind of synthesizing all this information, I'm trying to keep the point here. When you say go off the deep end, and when we're talking about social psychology and all that, it's not the outer work, it's the inner work, it's the inner work, it's the inner work. And yet people focus so much on the outer work of, going to the required 8 business meetings
mm-hmm. about
logistics and making sure that they're on time and just doing all that work.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it's like 2:00. I got to be at this meeting, and it's very important that I bring these 3 papers on, section 419. I got to make sure it's 419, 418, 417. And it's so much energy and time on this logistical admin orientedness, and yet, as you ask people about what makes you happy,
mm-hmm.
speechless.
Yeah.
I forgot.
It's definitely not Form 418.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they would just rip it up. They would they're just like, but if you're so caught up in that snowball and you're so involved, you're absorbed into that life, it's like you have very little time on top of kids and marriage and all these life, adulting, whatever things, that you have little time to pull back and you're like, let me examine my life, and turn the globe of my life like, where am I?
Yeah.
Like, what makes me happy?
I have a friend who's like 25 right now, and she is a bartender. And the other day we had this conversation because we got into this deep philosophical conversation, and she asked me, do you ever feel like you don't know what you want to do with your life? And I felt bad because the answer is no. And I knew that for her, the only reason she would ask that is because she feels that way.
Yes.
And I remember she started talking, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. There's all these things that I want to do. And this is another trap that I found that people fall into, is like, they start thinking about these things of like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Yet they don't try it. They're like, I know what I want to do, but there's no security in that. And they're like, well, I don't want to ever be in debt again. I don't want to ever like feel like live with my parents again. I don't ever want to have like this possibility that I have to live out of my car, and it's like, but you're allowed to try that. You're allowed to, because I've gone on verges of like homelessness multiple times, and I'm not saying it's comfortable, and it's definitely not an ideal situation, but it's not as scary as people make it out to be, especially if you know that there's always a way out. You can always find a quick job to do to find money.
You can always go back to school.
You can always go back to school. There's always a security net that you can fall into.
Yes.
But people, and this is one of the things that I think about when she's like, I want to try all these things. And I'm like, well, why don't you do it?
Just do it.
But if I leave my secure quote unquote job at the sushi restaurant, bartending tables, I'm never, I'm in debt already. I don't want to be in any more debt. My focus is paying down debt. I'm like, well, then you're not gonna live if you're so afraid of this like digits.
Yeah.
That's like apparently like overbearing you.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to feel secure enough to like just let go and try to do the things that you want to do.
Another aspect to that, which I think I could see it being a reality, is living above their means. Mm-hmm. Or they're like, well, I'm in debt. Well, are you going and paying for, $97 in drinks every weekend? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, people do those things, have those habits, and yet want an entrepreneur life or a freelancer life or, a better life, but yet your habits don't match your ambition. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so...
Well, there's that other thing that Gary Vee says a lot is, there was that one video of this kid, he wanted to be a rapper so badly. And he was like, that's all I want to do. And Gary Vee was like, well, let me ask you this. Would you rather be uncomfortable chasing your rapping dream, or would you rather be watching Netflix? And he's like, I'd rather be watching Netflix. And it's like, well, then you don't want to actually be a rapper as bad as you think you do. Because, and the kid was like, well, I don't have time to do this. I work. Because if you really want it bad enough, then you'll find the time to carve out time to actually work on the things that you want to do. I mean, the Gary Vee's and the Tony Robbins and all these people in the world, they all have had jobs. But in those, they got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep while they built their side hustle as they were going to work. And those are some of the risks that people were willing to take. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's just, it's very interesting how And I honestly, I keep going, I said this before, but honestly, and it sounds like you too. We were very fortunate that we didn't have parents that like force that kind of thinking on us, which not a lot of people are blessed with. Yeah. And I can understand that when you have so many people pressuring you to be like, this is how your life has to be. You have to find security. Right. You have to do this. When you have like 10 people telling you that this is how life has to be, and you have one person being like, excuse me, there's another way, you're not going to listen to the one person. You're going to listen to the 10 people that are like,
right,
blah.
That's so true.
So
and that calls to the fact of what you mentioned earlier about control. Mm-hmm. And so if people are wanting to control your life, and you don't have to be so blunt about using the term control. They're just saying, hey, you should, that's another word. You should do this, or it'd be better if you would do this, go down this path and be a mathematics professor, or a doctor or engineer or architect or whatever. And so they just go through life thinking, oh, I gotta follow what people say, and and then you mentioned like, oh well, I'm just like in passing at a Christmas dinner or something. I'm writing a book. Wait, what? Yeah, I'm just I'm thinking about it. So it's like those little passions bubble up, and those little like maybe start a side thing or something like that. But you're not willing to like go all in with it. Like, oh no, I do it on the weekends. Oh, I do it on Saturday night. Oh, I like to write, or I'll be in plays every weekend or once in a while. But like people aren't willing to say, this is what I want to do. And usually that's kind of, you do hear that sometimes, right? With with artists and freelance people. They're like, well, I just kind of stumbled into it.
Yeah.
Like I was doing something else, and then I wanted to write a book. So then all of a sudden I got a bunch of sales, and then I was like, I got enough money to do this. So it's like some people are intentional, and they're like, this is what I want, I want to be an actor, I want to be a writer, I want to be an author or whatever. And then some people are like, I'm just going to try it out. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm a lot more talented than I thought I was. And then they get leverage, and then traction, and then sales, and, so it's, I don't know, it's...
I remember I actually saw something the other day, and I know you're not a fan, but there was something on Ty Lopez's Twitter the other day that like was really, really like, okay, kind of goes in line with what we were talking about.
Who was that again?
Ty Lopez.
Oh, Ty Lopez.
Yeah. And he was like, this is one of the things he said, the natural cycle of financial success. Phase 1, you figure out what you want to do by trying many things. And that's the thing. That's what I'm not just like closing it in on the 20s. Like that's your entire life. You try many different things.
Yeah.
It's just you focus a lot of that on your 20s because, But, so you try many things, and then you figure out what you want to do. And then phase 2, you focus on that one thing and work hard at it. Phase 3, you profit from it. And then phase 4, you train others to do it for you. And phase 5, you move on to something else. But like that's life, People have this thing where they feel like and this is a security issue. Is like they feel like they have to do this one thing and one thing for the rest of their lives. And as you probably know, and as I have learned, is like there's so many different avenues in life where you could create wealth for yourself. And I'm not just saying wealth as in the financial sense, but happiness and just like all overall quality of life, that unless you try different things, you're never really going to find your true path. And people are so afraid of their path changing.
Yeah
Anyway.
Or just like jumping off the cliff, like it's like they're in that jump rope phase, like, okay, I'm gonna go in any minute. Just like they're just ready to jump in. I'm gonna go. Okay, this time. All right, next time. Okay, no. Okay, next time. Really. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, go ahead and start. All right. And it just. They just never jump in.
Well, it's like what Kyle Cease said.
Yeah.
In his podcast that you still haven't listened to, is you are either doing it or you're not.
That's like a Yoda.
That is. But this is
do or do not.
Well, he was making an analogy of going to the gym. You can walk into a gym and look at a treadmill and be like, I worked out today. Yeah. But you didn't. You did not. The only way you could either it qualifies as you working out or not is whether you hop on it or you don't.
That's it. I think about earlier when I was before I had an agent. I was like I was working a part-time job, and then working a part-time job, and then I started. I was like, that's regular security, and I can't. Okay, so like, as an actor, when someone says you got to jump, so that means jumping, like the big jump. The main jump is to just do acting stuff. Yeah. Or like in the film arena for money. That's it. That's all you're doing. Well, for me, I was like, well, I can't do the big jump, but I can do this small jump. I can start driving for Uber, which is super flexible. Then I can get to audition. Then I can get an agent. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So like, I think people are afraid of that big jump, and then are afraid of the little jumps too. Like, okay, maybe I can spend less money so I can save up for the equipment for this, because I want to start making films or something, or I start want to making little videos that I can sell, or whatever, And so there's this like incremental little goals that you can move toward, but like it just depends on discipline. It depends on motivation. It depends on what you really want to do, and I think there's a lot of people who just don't. It's almost like this, because I can stand back and say, well, you don't know what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Well, part of it is, yes, that's true, but on the deeper sense is that maybe they don't even know how to go about doing that.
Yeah, that's actually a bigger problem than most people realize. Yeah, because I know.
How do you go about figuring out what you want to do?
Honestly, and that's what goes back to you saying jump in. It doesn't matter where you start, you just start. You just like, okay, well, first of all, for acting, like I want to be an actor, but I don't know where to start. Take classes.
Yeah.
Surround yourself. I think the first thing to do is surround yourself in that environment of people who are already doing it.
Right.
Because through that, you will make connections and you'll learn what you need, what the next step is.
Right.
If not people or groups, books on people who have already done it, because a lot of the times they'll lay out through the books you'll see like the time frame of like what they did during like and how they got to where they are, especially biographies, like and so like and then once you figure out the next step, don't hesitate, go for it. It doesn't matter whether it's the right or wrong step. It's like,
or it doesn't matter what size of that. So like if I want to be a baseball player, so you can't just be on an MLB major league team, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to be on the team now. I'm going to be on the Houston Astros. Like, no, you have to start, throwing the ball around. Yeah. Like where do you start? Okay, start throwing the ball around. Get on a team, a rec team. Do you enjoy it? Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Okay, well, that sounds to me that you don't really like it. Mm-hmm. So let's try something else. Okay, let's go draw. Let's take a drawing class or art class, whatever. Do you like it? Yeah, I actually enjoy it. I really like enjoying drawing rhinoceros. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Continue doing that. Maybe do that for a year or two. I don't really like rhinoceros. I started doing digital artwork on the computer. Oh, awesome. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I'm like, then you're like weaving through all these different things, and maybe it's not drawing rhinoceros, but it's like digital art. Maybe it's doing marketing ads for nonprofits or something. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then, then you kind of weave through this thing. This kind of jumping to a different, same topic, but different kind of way of looking at it is that we're talking about parenting, and I guess we're already talking about that too. But I remember I read a book called in college called The Bridge to the 18th Century, and they talked about parenting and talked about technology from the 18th century to now and how it all changed and transformed people's lives. One of them was about parenting, and I find that it was a really, really interesting section where people, I about parenting where there is a certain philosophy of parenting where they think that their child is a blank slate that they have to inject their philosophy, their values. It's like, they're a they're a Mr. Potato Head without any of the elements.
You're basically they're there for you to mold.
Yes, exactly. Where they inject, this is what your eyes should look like. This is what your should nose should look like. Okay, we're gonna pick out the mouth for you, and that's a philosophy of parents. That we kind of coax you toward these types of values and things like that. Well, there's another, and I'm sure there's a million other ways to parent, but there's another way of looking at it too. Is that there are natural inclinations. There are these inner desires, inner fantasies, inner passions that you have to not force one way or another, but like I just said, let's just try to let's go horseback riding. Oh, I love the nature. I love being outdoors. I love the wind on my skin. Cool. Well, let's try something else. Let's try, let's read for 3 hours. Let's go make some ceramics, and then you try different things and like, oh, well, I like this. Like I said earlier, you start like figuring out what you want to do. And I just find that so fascinating. I'm so with the second part or second way of parenting, that there's these inner things that we have within us. And it's like, how do we go about growing those things? So going back to the main point of, how do we figure out what we want to do? We have to try things. We have to just draw, just draw, or just, I don't know, start concocting chemicals and figuring out how to make beer. I mean, and then what touches you? Like, really start being aware of what. Okay, like,
you have to be self-aware.
Yeah.
You have to open up, and it's not just doing things for the sake of doing it. It's you have to be hyper aware of how you're feeling and how it's making you feel as you're doing it.
Or have people around you to say, oh, you were interested in that, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Bobby, how come you stayed 2 hours later after class drawing a rhinoceros? There's something in there, right? Yeah. So that's what I mean. That parenting style. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm noticing this. But a lot of people grow up and they don't have those experiences or people that support them and mentor them toward those things.
And it's never like, I never blame like the parents, because they're only doing what they've been taught.
True.
They don't know anything better. And it's not necessarily saying they're doing it wrong. They just know that's just how they were taught. Yeah. And it's a product of, honestly, if we looked into deeper, it's like the product of, our parents being raised by parents who went through the Great Depression. So like they formed their own specific ideals.
And they really want security.
Yeah, on how life is supposed to be. And then there's like, before that, the war. Like there's like so many factors. But you have somewhere to be at 7. Are we still okay on time?
No, it's 7:30.
7:30.
So we can go for another 30 minutes, but we can cut out, 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's true.
I feel like this is fun, and because I don't know, I came in here with like this idea of a possible topic to talk about, and then you came in with one. And then, like, I feel like I didn't really discuss the thing that I wanted to talk about, but it ended up becoming, like, a really, really good conversation.
Good.
And this is why I love this, because, like, and this is one of those things where I stopped trying to make something before. Yes. Like, I just allow it to be.
Allow it to be.
And it comes from the heart. Like, this is, like, a conversation from the heart.
Yeah.
Whether other people like it doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter if you like it or not.
I do want to mention, though, if anybody is still listening, we're like an hour into this, but if you hear audio levels changing earlier on, it's because Mark and I talk at different speeds or voices, so I kept having to adjust it to kind of like fit, and then every time Mark puts his cup down, it was breaking the sound barrier. Sorry. So I apologize, but yeah. No.
But to that point, real quick. Yeah, meaning what you said about the conversation, how you have this idea and then you have to kind of allow it to happen. And that's, God, there's 3 points I wanted to make all of a sudden. First one is kind of to the point of security.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to plan it out. We want to be prepared. It has to be this way. It has to follow these bullet points. Mm-hmm. It's like that's why we enjoy this conversation. Just comes naturally. So that's one point. The other point is this is what improv is all about. Mm-hmm. We have to shake it out of ourselves to talk first. One of the main things in improv is you have eye contact, and then you have to have space work, and then kind of see what they're doing and read their expression versus, okay, I'm on the side like waiting for the scene to start, and I'm gonna be one of those NASCAR tire changers, and then I'm gonna put a real voice on it, and then I'm gonna have a wrench in my hand. Okay, start. And then the person talks, and they're in a flower shop. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I guess I can't be a NASCAR tire changer. So you have to go with the flow. And
one of my favorite improv, because I actually took a couple classes at Blacktop in Rockland.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one of my first experiences was we were all in a circle, and in the middle of the circle there's two people, and it's one of those that improv where like they start making a scene and somebody says freeze.
Yeah.
And then they freeze on the spot, and then one person gets tapped out and the other one comes in. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's like such a fun game. And the best ones are like just the ones that come up like you just play off of each other. Mm-hmm. You don't determine what it is that you're going to do. And I remember when we were doing that, the guy next to me got cautioned because he was like trying to be funny, and the guy was like, don't try to be funny,
Exactly.
Just be.
Yes. Try
to like figure out what it is that person is doing.
Yeah.
But like that comes into security, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, like...
We want to impress.
We want to impress. We want people to accept us, that security. Like, we want people to think that we're funny.
Yes.
And we need that security for ourselves. It's a self-esteem security.
Right. Instead of just going inside of yourself saying...
What can I contribute?
Say nothing.
Say nothing, yeah.
And just allow that to happen naturally. And it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Again, Kyle Cease. He was talking about his events because he does 3-day called Evolving Out Loud events, and he actually doesn't script any of it, which is pretty rare because like I've been to a couple Tony Robbins events and I've heard him say the same exact thing every single time because he has a flow going, and they're not bad messages, they're definitely good messages, but you could tell that he's done it so much that it's a scripted thing. Mm-hmm. And I remember Kyle Cease was like, he tells his audience straight up, I have no idea what's going to come out of these next 3 days, but we're just going to just let this all just be. And that's one of the things that and people come out like you never know how. And I think, and he was saying that when you do that, it comes from the heart. And whether it's financial security or like job security or like self-esteem security or any kind of security that you're aiming for, if you like determine to yourself like this is exactly how it's supposed to be in order for me to be secure, you're not playing from the heart, as Jerry Maguire would say. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean,
and then I think when that happens, I think that's when people start to pull back, when they start to become miserable, because like sometimes in relationships you hear it a lot. Oh, around you I can be myself.
Oh yeah.
That sense of security, like. You feel secure enough that you could be yourself. Like you feel okay to just like fart in front of somebody. But you would never do that to anybody else because you don't know what they're gonna think and how they're gonna react to you. And it's like, that sense of everyone's always looking for that sense of security, and it's not there.
I think that, I don't know. I think that stems from just being a baby. Everything is about you when you're a kid. Yeah. You get changed, you get fed, everything. You are the center of the earth. Center of the universe. you know, and so as we get older, less, you know, it becomes less apparent, like, wait a minute, the world does not evolve around me. And it's like, no, I want to make sure that my bib is on, and I want to make sure my banana pudding or whatever banana mixture is in front of me, and I want to make sure the spoon is right there, and I want to make sure that I'm propped up. I want to, you know, it's like they continually want that proper security at all times. I mean, it's human of us, totally understand it, but if we just start asking ourselves questions about the inner work, kind of coming to a close, basically, you know, start asking yourself questions about the inner work. That's the kind of stuff that I love to delve into, and I think that's what this podcast is about, or at least one aspect to it, of understanding ourselves, asking ourselves the deeper questions. I remember I just saw this news anchors talking about conversation, and a comedian was on there, and he was talking about these deep things, or quote unquote deep, and she was like, "Oh, this is really deep." Meaning, to me, that means that most people, well, of course, maybe on a newscaster, a news anchor environment, you're not going to ask those deeper questions, but I want those questions to be the commonplace,
right?
To really understand myself. Yeah. I've always wanted to delve into it. The universe, the physical universe, I think is so fascinating. But I think the inner universe is much more.
Well, the inner universe is so much more expansive too. Like, we have, as humans, we haven't tapped into, we're probably tapped into 1 or 2% of what we're actually capable of doing as humans, and it's, you know, because we're taught their life is a certain way. You know, we're not allowed to be like, oh, but, you know, what if I can fly? Like, maybe we can, and we just never did.
Yeah,
maybe we can.
That's true.
But so in kind of addition to that, before we close out, is you know, like, before we started this podcast today, I told you I had just gotten up from a nap. And about 30 minutes before you came, I was, like, so groggy. And I'm like, oh, my God, this podcast is going to be terrible. I'm not going to have a great conversation with Mark because I'm feeling like crap. And I'm like, I got to get better. I got to wake up. I got to, like, get out of this funk. And then I remember I had to take a step back. And I was like, Kit, just let it be. Just let it be. Let go of the need for security. Who cares if it turns out to be shit? This is one podcast out of more that you're going to do. It's okay. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm fine. And then once we started talking, like, conversation flowed just fine. Exactly. But if I held on to that, like, this has to be, like, I have to be a certain way, like, some days I'm going to be tired.
That's it.
That is it. And
I mean, same as in acting. You know, like, if you're in front of the camera for film, or in the theater, you're never going to be the same exact person you were the day before. You just have to go with the flow and with your mood and attitude, and things just happen that you're all groggy and annoyed, but you just continue on. I actually was thinking this similar type of thing. Well, as I was driving here, I was thinking, oh, okay, this topic, but in my mind I was like, wait a minute, I kind of like that we don't have a topic.
Yeah, I do too. Like, we don't know what we're going to talk
about. We don't know. Just go with the flow.
Yeah. I thought, you know, there was going to be a specific topic that one of us was going to bring up. But this just kind of stemmed from me turning 30. This conversation kind of came from that. Because then I talked about my mom telling me that advice, and that's kind of where this topic stemmed from. I didn't think that was going to be the catalyst for this entire podcast today. But that just goes to show.
That's totally fine.
And we're probably going to cut, since we're about an hour and 20 in, and Mark has to go soon, and I'm getting hungry. But,
and you know what happens when she gets hungry.
You don't like me when I'm hungry.
You don't.
I get hangry. I really do. But I'm still in that bubbly phase, so we're okay.
All right, well, from both of us, from TT23,
thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Yep, thanks for listening, and yeah. Cool. All right.
Cool.
Cutting now.